Hello, everyone. Welcome back to English in Fluency, the perfect place for you to train your ears and build your vocabulary. I am your host, Alex, and today we have a very special episode designed specifically for your growth. We are going to dive deep into the world of listening comprehension, focusing on a skill that is absolutely vital for understanding not just English, but any conversation deeply. Today's topic is all about identifying examples and evidence, and understanding supporting details clearly. This is a B1 level practice, which means we are moving beyond simple phrases and starting to understand the logic and structure behind what people say. This is going to be an exciting journey. So make sure you are in a quiet place, perhaps with a cup of tea. And let's get started. Imagine you are listening to a friend tell a story about a trip they took. They might say the food was amazing. If they stop there, you understand their opinion, but you don't really feel it. But then, they start giving you details. They tell you about the spicy street tacos they ate on a Tuesday night, or the creamy gelato they had by the fountain. Those are examples. Those are the pieces of evidence that make you believe them. Supporting details are the backbone of communication. They are the pillars that hold up the roof of the main idea. Without them, everything falls flat. Today, we are going to practice spotting these pillars. We are going to listen to a story, and throughout the story, I will pause to guide you, helping you pick out the specific words that act as proof and illustration. This skill will help you in exams, in business meetings, and in casual chats with friends. It changes you from a passive listener to an active detective. Let's begin our story. Today we are traveling, in our minds, to a small fictional town called Oak Haven. Oak Haven is a place known for its traditions, its old stone buildings, and its strong sense of community. But recently, a debate has started in the town. This debate has split the residents into two groups. On one side, there are the people who want to preserve the town exactly as it is. On the other side, there are people who believe Oak Haven needs to modernize to survive. This conflict is the perfect setting for us to practice listening for evidence. People on both sides will make claims, and they will use examples to support those claims. Your job is to hear those examples. Our main character today is a woman named Clara. Clara is an architect. She loves old buildings, but she also sees the potential for new designs. She is caught in the middle of this debate. The town council is holding a meeting to decide the fate of the old mill, a historic building that has been empty for years. Some want to turn it into a shopping center. Others want to make it a museum. Clara has been asked to present a plan. Let's listen to Clara talking to her assistant, a young man named Liam, about her ideas. As you listen, try to hear the specific reasons Clara gives for her choices. Clara sat at her large wooden desk, looking at the blueprints spread out before her. She looked up at Liam, who was holding a cup of coffee. "Liam," she began, "I know this project is difficult. Everyone in Oak Haven has an opinion, but I think I have found a solution that respects the past while making space for the future. My plan is to transform the old mill into a mixed-use community center." Now, right there, Clara has made a claim. Her claim is that she has a solution that respects the past and makes space for the future. But as a listener, you might ask, how? What is her evidence? We need to listen for the details that follow. Clara continued, "I have designed the ground floor to be an open gallery for local artists. For example, The brick walls in the main hall are perfect for hanging large paintings, and the natural light from the high windows will illuminate sculptures. Did you hear the evidence? She said, for example. This is a key phrase. It acts like a signpost on a road. It tells you, watch out, here comes an illustration. She gave two specific examples here. First, the brick walls are good for paintings. Second, the windows provide light for sculptures. These details support her claim that the building is good for an art gallery. If she had just said, "It will be a nice gallery," without describing the walls and the light, her argument would be weaker. But by giving these physical details, she proves her point. Let's continue with the conversation. Liam nodded and took a sip of his coffee. "That sounds lovely, Clara," he said. "But what about the shops? The town council really wants a shopping center to bring in money. What evidence do you have that your design will be profitable?" This is a challenge. Liam is asking for evidence of a different kind. He wants financial proof. Clara leaned forward. She was ready. "I have done a lot of research on similar towns," she said. "Look at the town of Riverwood, just 50 miles north. They turned their old textile factory into a market. According to their town records, tourism increased by 40% in the first year, and local businesses reported higher sales. Here we see another type of evidence. This is statistical evidence, or citing a case study. Clara did not just say, "It will make money." She used a comparison. She referenced Riverwood. Then, she gave specific details. Tourism increased by 40%. This number is the evidence. When you are listening, always tune your ears for numbers and place names. They often signal that the speaker is providing proof. Clara also mentioned that businesses reported higher sales. This is supporting detail that strengthens her argument about profitability. So, Clara added, by having a cafe and a small gift shop inside the community center, we can generate revenue. For instance, we can sell local handmade soaps and honey, which are very popular at the monthly farmers market. Again, she uses the phrase, "for instance." This is a synonym for example. It serves the exact same function. It introduces a specific item to support a general idea. The general idea is selling local products. The specific examples are soaps and honey. These are small details, but they help the listener visualize the shop. They make the abstract idea of revenue feel real and tangible. Now, let's pause for a moment to review. We have heard Clara use two different types of supporting details. First, she used physical descriptions. She talked about brick walls and windows. This supported her idea of an art gallery. Second, she used statistical data and comparisons. She talked about Riverwood and a 40% increase in tourism. This supported her idea of profitability. When you listen to English at a B1 level, you should be constantly asking yourself, why does the speaker think this? The answer is usually found in the sentence that follows the main claim. Let's move forward in the story. The scene shifts. It is now the evening of the town council meeting. The room is packed. People are sitting in wooden chairs, and the air is thick with anticipation. On one side of the room sits Mr. Henderson, the leader of the Historical Society. He is an older man with gray hair and a stern face. He represents the side that wants to keep Oakhaven exactly as it was 50 years ago. He does not want any changes. He stands up to speak. Let's listen to his argument and identify his evidence. Mr. Henderson adjusted his glasses and looked at the crowd. "Friends," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "We cannot let this happen. The old mill is the heart of our history. Changing it will destroy the character of our town." This is Mr. Henderson's claim. He thinks the change will destroy the town's character. But does he have evidence? Let's keep listening. "I remember when I was a boy," Mr. Henderson continued. "My father worked in that mill. The sound of the looms was the heartbeat of Oakhaven. If we turn it into a commercial space, we lose that connection. For example, the old smokestack is a landmark. It guides people home. Tearing it down or hiding it behind glass would be like erasing a part of our collective memory." Mr. Henderson uses emotional evidence and personal history. He tells a story about his father. This is an anecdote. Anecdotes are stories people tell to illustrate a point. They are a form of evidence, though they are subjective. They show how a situation feels to a specific person. He also gives a concrete example: the smokestack. He describes it as a landmark. He claims it guides people home. This detail supports his argument about the building's importance. He is appealing to the sentiment of the town. He wants the listeners to feel the loss. Then, a woman named Sarah stood up. Sarah owns the bakery down the street. She disagrees with Mr. Henderson. She wants the modernization. "With all due respect, Mr. Henderson," she said, "we cannot live in the past. The mill has been empty for 10 years. It is falling apart. I walk past it every morning. Just yesterday, I saw a piece of the roof had fallen onto the sidewalk. It is dangerous." Sarah is using observational evidence. She saw the roof falling with her own eyes. This is a very strong type of evidence because it is immediate and factual. She provides a specific example: seeing the piece of the roof on the sidewalk yesterday. This detail supports her claim that the building is dangerous. Sarah continued, "Furthermore, my bakery is struggling. We need more foot traffic. A community center would bring people here. For instance, if there is a cooking class in the new center, those students will come to my shop afterwards to buy bread." Sarah uses a hypothetical example. She says, "if there is a cooking class." This is a prediction, but it is based on logic. She gives a specific scenario: cooking class students buying bread, to support her economic argument. This is a common way to use evidence in debates about the future. You predict a positive outcome based on a logical chain of events. At this point, the room was buzzing. The arguments were clear. Clara, our architect, stood up to give her final presentation. She needed to combine these ideas. She needed to show that safety and history could coexist. She walked to the front of the room. She placed her hand on the old wooden podium. She took a deep breath. "Council members," she said, "we have heard fears about losing our history. We have heard concerns about safety and the economy. My design addresses all of these points with specific solutions." Let's listen closely to how Clara structures her rebuttal. She uses signposting language. "First," she said, "let's talk about safety. The structural engineer, Mr. Vance, inspected the building last week. His report states that the walls are stable, but the roof needs replacement. Therefore, we will remove the old tiles and install a new, green roof." Here, Clara cites an expert. Mr. Vance is the engineer. His report is the evidence. This is much stronger than just saying, "it is safe." She gives a professional opinion as proof. She then details the solution: removing tiles, installing a green roof. These are the actions she will take. "Second," Clara continued, "regarding history. We will not hide the smokestack as Mr. Henderson feared. Instead, we will highlight it. We will install spotlights at the base to illuminate it at night. For example, during the winter festival, the smokestack can be lit up with colors, becoming a centerpiece of celebration. Again, we see the phrase, for example. Clara provides a visual detail. She describes the spotlights and the winter festival. This imagery acts as evidence that she respects the history. She proves it by describing exactly how she will treat the historical elements. The room was silent. People were listening to the details. They were imagining the green roof and the lit-up smokestack. The details were doing their job. They were convincing the audience. This is the power of supporting details. A main idea is just a headline. The details are the story. They are the colors in the painting. Now, let's switch gears a little bit. We are going to practice. I am going to give you a few short scenarios. In these scenarios, a character will make a statement. I want you to try to identify the supporting detail. I will pause to give you time to think. Then I will explain the answer. This is active training. It trains your brain to listen for the because or the for instance that usually follows a claim. Scenario 1. Listen to this woman talking about her new diet. I have started eating a Mediterranean diet, and I feel much healthier. For example, for breakfast today, I had Greek yogurt with walnuts and honey instead of my usual sugary cereal. Okay. What was the claim? She feels healthier. What was the evidence? She gave a specific example of her breakfast. She contrasted the yogurt, walnuts, and honey with the sugary cereal. That detail proves the change in her behavior. It supports her claim of feeling healthier because she is describing the healthy actions she is taking. Scenario 2. Listen to this man talking about why he likes a specific movie. The movie Silent Echo was incredibly boring. The plot moved so slowly. For instance, there was a 20-minute scene where the main character just stared at a wall. The claim is that the movie was boring. The evidence is the specific scene description. He describes a 20-minute scene of a character staring at a wall. This is a concrete example that supports his opinion. It gives you, the listener, a reason to agree with him. Scenario 3. This one is a bit harder. Listen for the hidden evidence. Learning a new language is good for your brain. Studies show that bilingual people often have better memories and are better at multitasking. Did you catch it? The claim is that languages are good for the brain. The evidence is citing studies. The specific details are better memories and better at multitasking. The speaker didn't say, for example, but the phrase studies show acts as the signal. It introduces the evidence. Learning to spot these signal phrases is key to mastering B1 listening. Let's go back to Oak Haven. The town council meeting is coming to an end. The mayor, a woman named Mrs. Higgins, stands up to make a decision. She needs to use the evidence presented to make a choice. This is the final part of our listening practice. We need to see which arguments were the most persuasive. Mrs. Higgins tapped the microphone. "Thank you all for coming," she said. "I have listened to everyone. I have looked at the facts. The evidence presented tonight has helped me see a clear path." Mrs. Higgins looked at Mr. Henderson. "Mr. Henderson, your stories about the mill are beautiful. They remind us of who we are. That is important." She acknowledged his anecdotal evidence. Then she looked at Sarah. "Sarah, Your point about the dangerous roof is worrying. Public safety is our priority. We cannot have buildings falling down. She accepted the observational evidence. And Clara, the mayor continued, you have shown us that we do not have to choose between history and safety. Your plan to illuminate the smokestack satisfies our desire to remember the past. Your report from the engineer satisfies our need for safety. Therefore, Mrs. Higgins announced, we will proceed with Clara's plan for the community center. The room erupted in applause. Mr. Henderson even clapped a little bit. Why? Because his concerns were addressed with specific details. The spotlights. Sarah smiled because her concerns were addressed with specific details. The engineer's report and the new roof. The resolution of the conflict happened because the characters used supporting details effectively. They didn't just argue with opinions. They backed up their thoughts with proof. This story illustrates why listening for details is so crucial. If you were a resident of Oak Haven listening to this meeting, and you only heard the opinions, I hate change, or I want money, you would miss the resolution. You would think they were just fighting. But by listening to the evidence, you understand the compromise. You understand the solution. In real life, this is how problems are solved. People give reasons. They provide data. They tell stories. If you can catch those supporting details, you can follow the logic. You can understand the why behind the what. Let's do a deeper dive into the types of signals we heard today. Knowing these signals will help you in every English conversation you have. First, we have the phrase, for example, and for instance. These are the most obvious signs. They scream, here is a detail, but there are others. We heard, according to. This is used when citing a source, like a book, a person, or a report. When you hear according to, get ready for a fact. We also heard phrases like studies show or research indicates. This introduces scientific or statistical evidence. It adds authority to the statement. Then there is the signal of personal experience. Phrases like, I remember when, or in my experience, or I saw. These tell you the speaker is shifting to anecdotal evidence. This is subjective, but it is still a supporting detail. It tells you how the speaker feels. Finally, look out for contrasts. Sometimes the evidence is what is not happening. Like in our scenario with the diet. The woman said she ate yogurt instead of cereal. The instead of clause provides evidence by showing what changed. I want you to imagine you are a detective for a moment. A detective looks for clues, fingerprints, footprints, a dropped ticket. In English listening, the main idea is the crime. The supporting details are the clues. If you only know the crime happened, you can't solve it. You need the clues to understand the full picture. When you listen to a podcast, or watch a movie, or talk to a boss, try to catch the clues. If your boss says, you are doing a good job, that is nice. But if they say, you are doing a good job, specifically the way you handled that client meeting yesterday, that is different. The evidence, the specific meeting, makes the praise real and valuable. Let's try one more extended listening practice segment. I am going to tell you a short story about a man named Elias who wants to adopt a dog. Listen for the reasons he gives his wife, Sophia, for why they should get a specific dog named Buster. Try to count how many pieces of evidence he uses. Elias sat on the sofa next to Sophia. He held a flyer with a picture of a scruffy brown dog. Sophia, he said, I really think Buster is the one for us. I know we wanted a small dog, but look at him. First of all, the shelter notes say he is house-trained. That means we won't have to clean up messes. For example, the note says he has never had an accident in his kennel even though he has been there for 3 weeks. Elias paused. Also, look at his energy level. The volunteer told me he loves to nap. She said he spent most of the afternoon sleeping in the sun. That is evidence he is calm, which is what we wanted. Let's analyze this. Elias makes the claim that Buster is the right dog. He gives 2 main pieces of evidence. First, the shelter notes about being house-trained. He supports this with a detail. Buster has never had an accident in 3 weeks. Second, he claims Buster is calm. He supports this with a testimony from a volunteer and a specific example: the dog sleeping in the sun. Elias uses written notes and expert testimony, the volunteer, to prove his point. If you were Sophia, these details would help you make a decision. Without them, "he is a good dog" is just an opinion. With them, it is an argument. This highlights another important aspect of supporting details. They build trust. When someone gives you details, it shows they have done their homework. It shows they are not just making things up. In the story of Oak Haven, Clara built trust with the council by citing the engineer's report. In the story of Elias, he builds trust with Sophia by quoting the shelter notes. As an English learner, when you speak, try to use these techniques. Don't just say, "The movie was good." Say, "The movie was good because the acting was very natural." For instance, in the scene where the family eats dinner. You will sound more fluent and more persuasive. We have covered a lot of ground today. We have traveled to Oak Haven. We have debated the old mill. We have chosen a diet. And we have adopted a dog. All through these stories, the pattern has been the same. A speaker makes a claim and then follows it with evidence. The evidence takes the form of examples, statistics, expert opinions, personal anecdotes, and descriptive details. Your ability to identify these parts of speech is what separates a basic listener from an intermediate or advanced listener. It allows you to engage with the content, to agree or disagree based on facts, and to remember what was said. Think about your own life. Maybe you are planning a trip. You tell your friend, "We should go to Italy." They ask why. You say, "Because the food is great." That is a weak argument. But if you say, "We should go to Italy. For example, we can visit Rome and see the Colosseum, and I read an article that said the gelato there is the best in the world." Suddenly the trip sounds exciting. The details make the idea come alive. This is the power of language. It is not just about grammar. It is about how we arrange our thoughts to impact others. As we wrap up today's session at English in Fluency, I want to give you a challenge for the next week. I want you to listen to one short video or podcast every day. It can be about anything: sports, news, cooking, anything. But while you listen, I want you to write down one claim the speaker makes and one piece of evidence they use to support it. Just one. If you do this every day for a week, your brain will start to automatically look for that structure. You will stop hearing just a stream of words and start hearing the architecture of the argument. Thank you for spending this time with me, Alex. I hope you enjoyed our trip to Oak Haven and that you feel more confident in your listening skills. Remember, the details matter. They are where the truth lives. If you found this practice helpful, please make sure to subscribe to English in Fluency. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a chance to improve. Leave a comment below telling me about a time you used a good example to win an argument. I read as many comments as I can. And if you want to support the channel, please share this video with a friend who is also learning English. Your support allows us to create more detailed, high-quality lessons just like this one. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep speaking with confidence. Goodbye for now.